Hello out there. Welcome to WYTV7. I keep forgetting the station call numbers. Okay, so welcome to Conversation with Pastor Cindy and Friends. My broadcast is all about bringing the spirit of knowledge for health, healing, and hope. We're a Christian broadcasting network, and would love for you to be able to donate to us, and I'll leave you with a number afterwards. I'd also love it if you would call that number and leave messages of inquiry, any kind of comments or suggestions you'd like to have. If you need help or a prayer request, we'd like to know about that too. So I am happy today to be here in Albemarle, North Carolina. Our station comes out of Charlotte, North Carolina. But I am in Albemarle, North Carolina with my friend Allison Hudson. And I've known her for a couple of years now, and she is a beautiful young woman who is on a mission. And I'm going to let her talk about that mission and vision and her passion around it. And I also want to say that we are sitting in Will's place. And most of this broadcast will be about Will, about her brother, and about his journey. So welcome to everyone out there. And hi, Allison.
Hi, Miss Cindy.
So good to be with you today. Tell me a little bit about you presently. What are you up to these days?
Oh, goodness. What am I up to? Well, I just celebrated 5 years this past summer in recovery.
Awesome.
And so, you know, just learning to live, kind of experiencing all the little things that life has to offer that I missed out on for so long. You know, the simple pleasures, the important things. You know, life is good today. It's about service and helping others, and you know, just kind of giving back what's been given to me.
That's awesome, honey. So tell me, you gave me your mission. Tell me about Will.
Will was my younger brother. He was 3 years younger than me, and a sweet kid growing up. You know, just a very gentle soul, kind spirit. And we went to college together, and you know, we grew up very privileged, kind of having everything we ever wanted and needed. And you know, addiction was kind of the last thing on our radars growing up, that it would ever be us. And unfortunately, that is part of my story, and it was the ending of my brother's story. He died of an overdose in 2012 from prescription drugs, and you know, just been dealing with that. His death led to my recovery, which I'm grateful for. But now, you know, I kind of live every day just kind of trying to make it up to him, and helping others that that still have a chance.
You know, when you said you started this right after Will's death, well, you got into your own recovery right after Will's death, but it's almost like a dying, and I'm so sad that happened to him, and I know you are too, and it's still very fresh, and he'll be with you forever. But the way you're doing this ministry, Will's Place, in his honor, tell me a little bit about this location and what your dreams are for the future.
So Will's Place, you know, it started out, I wanted to do a sober living, kind of a place for men to come to rebuild their lives. We have another building away from this one that I had the plans for that to do. And then kind of going back and forth through architects and city planning and zoning. That's about an $800,000 project.
Oh.
So I didn't have that in my bank account.
Right.
So, you know, that's still in our dreams down the road a few years, but we wanted to address the immediate need that we're facing as a country, and Stanley County is no different. Mecklenburg County is no different. And so it's a recovery resource center, a recovery community organization. So we're helping individuals and family who don't know where to go, don't know where to start in their road to recovery. They can come in, get the resources they need, ask the questions, find treatment options that work best for them. And then we will kind of help facilitate all of that. We're also big in, I have 6 nephews, and so I'm big in prevention and awareness to the younger generation. So we're doing a lot with that. We're a community-focused, community-driven organization. So really anybody in our community can come in and tell us what they want to see from Will's Place,
right.
with anything addiction recovery related, and we're going to find the best program for that and try to bring it in, whether it's a support group for parents who have lost children or kids who have been affected by addiction in their family.
Right.
So we're kind of just like a catch-all. I was just telling somebody earlier, so many people in our community know what addiction looks like, but not many people know what recovery looks like, and that is the other side of it, and that there is hope and a wonderful world on the other side of such a tragic disease that affects so many families. So we just want to be a safe place, of love and compassion, that people can come and feel comfortable getting the help they need without that shame and stigma.
It's very powerful, your ministry, Allison. And I was thinking about the various ways you could use Will's Place. I know I was with a young woman on Sunday evening. We've been doing a series of Not My Child, because that's the first thing parents will say. Oh, my child wouldn't do that. Not my child. And that's not true. Addiction knows no color, no race, no socioeconomic perimeters. It touches everyone's life. And I dare say that there's probably not one person walking the street out here today that has not been touched by addiction, probably in many ways and all over the world. So, and so I was talking with this young girl, and she is the sister. Her brother died last year of an overdose to pain meds. He had gotten hit in the face with some brass knuckles, knocked all of his teeth up in the roof of his mouth. He had to have 6 major surgeries, and the end result was addiction, an addiction he couldn't stop. And Clay, like your brother Will, has gone on to life eternal. So she was talking about, when this addiction's going on in the family, a lot of the focus is on the addicted person or the addict. And so the siblings sort of sometimes get left by the wayside. And she said, what a great support group it would be for the siblings, because oftentimes parents are in denial. Whereas the kids that are growing up, or they're seeing their brother or their sister go down the drain very rapidly, sometimes are more open to conversation about that. So I know you'll be exploring different ways to do that, but she suggested a sibling support group. So I thought that was a pretty good idea.
Absolutely.
And how your parents, how are they doing?
They're doing good. I think Will's Place has helped everybody in our family. It was kind of I was the one crazy enough to kind of run with it and, kind of go through with the process of not knowing anything about opening, a recovery resource center. But it's helped everybody, remember Will, the life that he had, and using such a tragedy, such a pain for a greater purpose, and that helps the healing process. So
I love that.
Everybody, it's a family venture for sure, and everybody's so excited, and the community's excited, and it's a great place to honor Will and remember him in such a positive light.
I know he's smiling every time he sees you, and the way you speak of your love for him. So what do you see? I know that you're offering Will's Place because there is such a great need. Are there other venues or other ways that you wished that parents and or community would step into a place of hope? Are there any other ideas that you have?
I mean, as a community, one of the biggest things that I feel is important is the language we use. And even people coming from very good, genuine places often use language that creates barriers for the people that are suffering. It kind of puts up barriers to wanting help because there's so much shame and stigma around it. And so, I'd like to see the community just this not being such a subject that's off limits, that we start talking about it. But we don't just talk about the addiction, we talk about the recovery side. Growing up, I never knew, anybody in recovery. So when I came to go to treatment, I didn't know what recovery looked like. Nobody was like really living that life out loud to say, hey, this is the life I've been through and I'm on the other side. And so I hope to see as a community, everybody just kind of show compassion towards one another, not so much judgment, be a little more freely with the giving of the grace, to people.
Allison, I was thinking about addiction as a disease. Now, some people do not believe it's a disease. They believe that a person starts on this road because they want to do it, and if they had any willpower at all, they would stop. However, I believe you and I would come to an agreement that addiction is a disease. I've always said that a woman doesn't get up one day and decide that she's going to drink her life away, that she's going to lose her husband, her home, her children, her car, not be able to get a job, and live such a sad life. However, there are many women doing that right now in their kitchen, and they don't believe there is hope. And the other thing that was interesting as you were speaking about beginning to talk about this problem, the people in recovery sometimes will keep it a secret because of the anonymity, and that's certainly their privilege. However, how are we going to know about hope if we don't speak about hope? And the other side of that is the silence in the community, the stigma, like you said, and the judgment, and we don't want to tell anybody about this. Well, if we keep it under a hat on the table, as the scripture says, if we light a candle and we put it under a bush, then no one can see the light of love and hope. So I want to congratulate you and commend you on being forward and courageous enough to say, yeah, I'm in recovery, and I want people to know that there is another side to this, and that people don't have to die. Young people like you. We just had an incident recently in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, where there were a lot of kids that came to a football game, and they were high and drunk and rude, and they got kicked out of the stadium by the principal. I think basically the stadium got shut down. And he sent them home. Well, wonder how they got home, and wonder where the next steps are. Can we now address this? Can we do more education? I think it's about education. What you were saying, people don't really understand that people just don't set out to kill themselves and lose their family. What can you tell me a little bit about what maybe your mom and dad were going through at this time with Will and with you? And did you see signs of denial? Did you see confusion and not knowing what to do, where to call, who to contact for help?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, my family will tell you, my parents will tell you, it was just a lot of ignorance, and around the disease of addiction. My mom and dad both will tell you today, we should have seen the signs. We didn't know the signs. They were all there, looking back, the perspective is, very clear of what the reality of the situation was. I mean, one, you don't want to believe it. Two, you think it's going to get better because if you don't have the knowledge and the education about it, you just don't know. And that was even true for myself as someone, who was suffering from alcohol addiction. I didn't know what made an alcoholic an alcoholic. I thought an alcoholic was somebody, who had lost everything, who was living on the streets with a brown paper bag, and that was my idea. So I know my parents, they approached the topic a few times with Will. He lived closer to them. He worked for a family business, so he was more around them. so his addiction was just kind of more in everyone's face.
Right.
I was able to hide mine a little better. I always lived, you know, in California and Boston and, you know, and then in Charlotte, which was still an hour away from my family. So I just kind of would remove myself so they didn't know kind of the severity of it. But the signs were all there. They will say, you know, my parents, you know, today are big advocates on education, and it can happen to your kid, you know. My parents, neither one were alcohol was never in our home. Neither one of my parents are alcoholics. There's no form of abuse or trauma. You know, a lot of people identify that is kind of leads you to addiction, which it, you know, it often does. But there are cases, you know, like me and my brother that
Grew up in great
we
homes.
grew up in great homes with loving families, and we have 2 other siblings who don't have any issues with substance abuse or addiction. You know, and we received the same love and the same upbringing and opportunities as they did. So yes, education is 100% key.
Yeah, Allison, I'm looking forward to contacting your parents. I would love to have them on. I want to do sort of a series beginning in January about parents that have lost their children. Interviews with siblings who walked that journey with their beloved sister or brother. So the first part of 2018, I'm hoping to focus on professionals in the field, interventionists, red flags. You mentioned all the signs were there, your parents say now, because they've become educated. Mm-hmm. What would you say were some of those signs that they didn't put together till too late?
You know, Will always struggled with anxiety. And so, you know, he was prescribed more medicine than he should have been prescribed by doctors. They didn't know that, you know, at the time. They didn't know that a 29-year-old healthy male shouldn't be on Ambien and Adderall and Xanax, you know. And these were from doctors who were legit, not dirty doctors.
Right,
you know,
right.
He wasn't doctor shopping. So it initially started with abusing these meds, but when we started seeing the signs of something not quite right with Will, he would always have an excuse. I'm trying to get my meds right. You know, my doctors put me on a different medicine, and you just want to believe it, you know? And so you just hope he's being honest and he's telling the truth. And the thing is, no, I don't think there's anybody that is an addict or an alcoholic. We all think we can beat it. We all think we can beat that. You know, we're going to like try to get up to the line just close enough. And when it gets to be bad enough a problem, we're going to turn around. Right. You know, I think we all tell ourselves that. And I think that was kind of Will's thing. And, you know, just behavior, start kind of detaching from the family, you know, that sort of thing. Right. You can look back, you can see the difference of Will fading away in photographs, which is heartbreaking, you know. And at the time, you just don't really, you just think it's a phase. Right. You know. That's
what a lot of parents think.
Yeah.
They get through, sometimes kids get through high school really well, and then they get into college and the college scene and drinking and smoking pot and that kind of thing. And some of them, the majority of them, pull themselves up and out of that, go on and get married, have families, careers. And some of them are left way behind. And you never know what family it's going to strike, how people are going to respond. You know, you had talked about the different medications that the legitimate doctors, very professional, gave Will to help him. And sometimes that does help if you don't have a tendency to just go off the deep end. So you started out a while ago and you said, you know, Will was taking his meds and indeed trying to get them adjusted. And I believe, and I believe you do too, Allison, that with your whole heart, that's exactly how it started out. Mm-hmm. He was trying to get out of his anxiety, and he wanted to live what he perceived as a normal life. And it just backfired on him. And how old was Will when he died?
He was 29.
Way too young.
You know, and I think that's another thing. Parents think that once you get your kids through high school or through college, you're in the clear. You raise, you know, and Will or I, neither one struggled with substance abuse until our, you know, into our 20s.
Right.
You know, I didn't have my first drink until I was almost 20 years old. So I didn't start drinking, you know. Will started drinking, same thing, around the age of, I think, 18 was his first drink. But went all through high school without drinking. And so, yeah, it's just, it hits anyone at any time. You know, there's no check mark that you always just kind of have to be, and especially as a parent, aware of what your kind of kids are going through. And
right. And, you know, as an interventionist, certified interventionist, I have sat with parents where the mom's singing from this side of the page in the hymn book, if you will, and the father is over here, and they haven't even come to terms with the addiction part of their child's life, and they're not even, no rhyme to reason to it, so it causes a lot of conflict. And then when parents are together, that makes for a more stable intervention and a more stable intimacy within their family. And I do believe that addiction is a family disease. It affects everyone in the family, everyone. For a wife, perhaps, whose husband is drinking too much, she's always using all her energy and her mental capacities to figure out how she can make this man that she loves stop. And so she gets addicted to trying to make him stop. All the while he keeps drinking. It is an insidious disease, and there is hope and healing and help out there that will restore us to health. That's my whole purpose in this series, is to provide that information. And it is, Allison, all about education, and it most importantly is finding out the good life of recovery. I believe you have a blog that you write in. What is the name of that?
It's A Lush Life.
It's A Lush Life. That's a great title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because now it is truly a lush life. And when I first started out my conversations with Pastor Cindy, I chose to use John 10:10. And it says that Jesus came to offer life, abundant life, just not life, but living abundantly out of the grace and the mercy that he offers us. And I do believe that when people die of addiction, I don't care whether it's a woman at her sink in the kitchen and she just simply dies right there. I believe that Jesus, the ultimate healer, reaches down from heaven and pulls those souls into a life of peace. That just happens to be my theology. There may be people that disagree with that, but I believe that anyone can reach the healing, and death does not have the final say. No. It doesn't have the final sting. That's what the scriptures promise us. So I want to thank you again so much for being with me. You're a sweetheart. I love you, and much success to you. I will remember Will and Will's place and being here today, and we'll stay in contact, and I do want to reach out to your parents. So to all of y'all out there, I hope you have got something from this, some information that will help you either with yourself and your situation, your families, your neighbors, your churches. Our churches need to reach out to people like us that sit in the pew every Sunday and silently pray prayers of desperation, that maybe that person next to you, sitting beside you in the pew, would know that you are in trouble and that you need help. So open those conversations, open your mouth, tell your truth, because the truth is what sets you free. I want to close again letting you know that this is WYTV7 Christian Radio Network out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Our number for donations, we're a nonprofit, so we'd appreciate any support that you can offer. And that number is 980-202-2915. And I'd like to close with this. May the peace of Christ be with you. May the love of God surround you. And may the light of the Holy Spirit guide you. Peace of Christ be with you now and forevermore. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. You're so sweet.